Do you know what the poverty rate is in our country?
I believe that the poverty level is a fixed number.
No, do you know the poverty rate in this country?
I believe it is in the teens.
In the teens, okay. Well, it's about a little over 11%. It just strikes me that most of all your testimony is always about the tax cuts and cutting costs, and it's always about tax cuts, and it's always about the rich. But nothing is ever said about poor, other than you suggesting that you worked yourself
No,
ma'am.
College. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime.
Sir, I read your testimony. That's not anywhere in here.
Deductibility.
That is not in here, sir.
Deductibility.
I am referring to your
loans.
testimony and what I've listened to. I said right up front, I can see you and I can hear you. You've not said one thing about what we're doing to help the poor. In fact,
none of your colleagues
even when we were talking about the car seats.
She asks one basic question, one number every economic leader should know. And suddenly, there's hesitation, not about Wall Street, not about markets, but about poverty in America. What happens next exposes a deeper disconnect and why working families feel unseen.
Ms. Garcia is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the Secretary for being with us today. I want to start first by just clarifying your testimony and its delivery. Why did you ask for your witness statement to be embargoed until this morning?
Sorry, pardon me?
Your testimony reads right at the very top, embargoed until delivery, which means that we didn't follow the usual practice of this committee of getting the testimony 24 hours in advance so that committee members can review it and prepare for questions. Yours was posted at 10:01. The committee was at 10. Well, it looks like you need.
My staff is just telling me that it's standard practice.
It's your standard practice? It's not our standard practice. As a committee.
I'm told that it was standard practice.
Okay, you were told by whom, sir?
So my comms team and legislative affairs team working with the committee.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think for the record, I think you should clarify to the gentleman that that is not our standard. And I know that at least I didn't know anything about this until I got it here. And I don't think our committee staff on the Democratic side was notified that we would be getting all your testimony late. I just wondered, why you had made that request, and clearly at the top, embargoed until delivery.
Well, embargo to delivery, I think that was mostly meant for the press.
We're not press, sir. We're the members of Congress that have oversight. So, Mr. Chairman, I would hope that you not condone this kind of late submission. It just doesn't help, frankly, for some of the atmosphere that's created when we all just sit down and we still don't have your testimony. Well, then, we just sort of don't feel really good about that. It's not our custom.
Congresswoman, I appreciate the importance that you put on my statement.
Well, thank you. Notice it's important, sir. Do you know what the poverty rate is in our country?
I believe that the poverty level is a fixed number.
No, do you know the poverty rate in this country?
I believe it is in the teens.
In the teens, okay. Well, it's about a little over 11%. It just strikes me that most of all your testimony is always about the tax cuts and cutting costs, and it's always about tax cuts, and it's always about the rich. But nothing is ever said about poor, other than you suggesting that you worked yourself
No, ma'am.
college.
No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime.
Sir, I read your testimony. That's not anywhere in here.
Deductibility.
That is not in here, sir.
Deductibility.
I am referring to your
loans.
testimony and what I've listened to. I said right up front, I can see you and I can hear you. You've not said one thing about what we're doing to help the poor. In fact,
none of your colleagues
even when we were talking about the car seats, that impacts poor people more than anyone else. Because not only can they usually not even afford a car seat and have to go to a garage sale to find one, now it's going to be even higher. Your president is suggesting that he wants to give a $5,000 bonus to women to have babies, and then what? Just leave them out on the cold alone? No car seat, no food, no Medicaid? No chip
Congresswoman,
program?
I can tell you the worst.
And I'm asking you right now, sir.
The worst thing for working
need
families
to,
will be
as a
the
treasurer,
expiration of the 2017
As Secretary of Treasury, it's not
Tax Cuts and
just
Jobs
about
Act.
the inflation rate. It's not just about the GDP. It's also about making sure that we keep the poverty rate in this country low. There are people who are living in poverty that never have lived in poverty before. You know, you also failed to say here, you say unemployment remains low. I mean, the study should have read unemployment went up.
Ma'am,
Because it did.
Under the Biden administration,
And the growth administration, we're not talking about Biden, sir. We're
record
talking
food bank
about your
usage.
testimony here
Record food
today
bank usage.
about the current president and his plans. Because I can tell you, I'm from Houston. I'm concerned too about some of the tariffs on energy. You know, we have done a lot to increase trade in Houston, construction, everything after the pandemic. And all things were growing. Everything has been growing. But now that the Trump tariffs have surfaced, it is threatening Houston's economy. I represent the area where almost the entire ship channel is in. The petrochemical companies all are in my district. The port is in my district. Everybody is trying to figure out
Gentlewoman's
what the
time has
hell we're going to
expired.
do.
Mr. Chairman,
The ranking member.
I ask unanimous consent to enter.
What makes this exchange so revealing isn't just that Scott Bessent hesitates when asked about the poverty rate. It's why that hesitation matters, and what it tells us about how economic power is being framed inside Washington. When Representative Sylvia Garcia asks, "Do you know the poverty rate in this country?" she's not testing trivia. She's testing grounding. For someone tasked with shaping national economic policy, knowing how many Americans are struggling isn't optional knowledge. It's the baseline. And yet, Bessent guesses, in the teens. That moment is important because it exposes a quiet disconnect. The actual rate, just over 11%, represents tens of millions of people, families who are working, raising children, paying rent, and still falling behind. When a policymaker can't place that number, it raises a deeper question. Who is actually centered when these policies are written? Garcia sets the tone earlier by challenging the late submission of Bessent's testimony. That procedural issue isn't minor. Congressional oversight depends on preparation. When testimony arrives at the last minute, it limits scrutiny, and scrutiny is exactly what economic power resists most. That's when Garcia shifts from process to people. She points out something often lost in economic talking points. Strong GDP numbers do not automatically mean strong households. Low unemployment does not guarantee stability. Inflation statistics don't tell you whether a parent can afford a car seat, childcare, or groceries this week. This is where the exchange becomes educational for the public. Poverty today doesn't always look like unemployment. Many people living in poverty are working. They're employed, but one medical bill, one rent increase, one tariff shock away from crisis. Garcia names this reality plainly, and it stands in contrast to testimony that focuses almost exclusively on tax cuts, cost-cutting, and incentives aimed at the top. When Bessent responds by listing ideas not even present in his prepared testimony, it reinforces the concern. These are talking points, not plans, aspirations, not guarantees. And Garcia doesn't let that slide. She brings it home to Houston. Ports, energy, trade, real industries with real workers. She explains how tariffs and uncertainty ripple outward, not through stock charts, but through supply chains, jobs, and local economies. This is where policy stops being theoretical and starts being lived. And then comes the most human moment of the exchange. Garcia challenges the logic of offering a one-time bonus for childbirth while cutting or threatening the very systems families rely on afterward. What does a $5,000 check mean if there's no affordable childcare, no healthcare, no food assistance, no safety net? Economic policy, she's arguing, cannot be reduced to slogans. It has to function after the speech ends. By the end, this exchange reveals something fundamental. Garcia is asking whether economic leadership understands the full picture: poverty, precarity, and pressure on working families. Bessent is speaking in abstractions, growth metrics, and assumptions that don't fully account for lived experience. This isn't about scoring points. It's about whether those entrusted with economic power truly see the Americans affected by their decisions. And that's why this moment matters. Because poverty isn't a side issue. It's a measure of whether policy is working at all. Do you believe economic leaders today truly understand the realities of working families? Or are key decisions being made too far removed from everyday life? Share your perspective. The public conversation matters.